here we are with Exalted Demake, Never Talk to Strangers, the Season 1 intro. We're in September 2024. I'm Devon, the facilitator. Today with us we have...
I'm Gerald. I'm playing Salah al-Rashid, Caste Solar.
I'm Stephanie, playing Zero, a Daycast Abyssal.
I'm Falco. I'm playing Noah, a Twilight Caste Solar.
I'm Arbane. I'm playing Captain Craig Donovan, a Zenith Caste Solar.
And I'm Panda. I'm playing Neil Bhediya, a Caste Solar.
We also had Weirdness Magnet / Adam and Nicole with characters, but they couldn't come to the intro, and I don't remember enough of their stuff to just say it on the fly. So you're going to have to cope, listeners. Maybe you'll catch information on the outro. There's that train. Good.
That was good timing.
Quick draw, Steph. Quick on the draw. Good one. So, let's talk about the Exalted Demake real quick. And by us, I mean me. So, listeners, the Exalted Demake is a project Holden Shearer is doing where he's taking the kind of first edition principles of Exalted and remixing and rebuilding it into its own engine. So things are a little more stripped down, streamlined, playable, interesting. It's supposed to incorporate kind of everything from Exalted, but with a more unified design. And the purpose of this game was to playtest a new rebuild of the combat engine and see how it kind of figures out. Never Talk to Strangers is a game that takes place in a fictional town of Helios, Florida. It's a town coated in neon lights, has a lot of weird goddamn stuff going on, and it's only vaguely World of Darkness. I've remixed a lot of that stuff and changed a lot of the things that exist inside of it and how it exists in the context of it. So it's, mages, vampires, werewolves, all that stuff is there. But because this is us playtesting the Exalted engine and a lot of the Exalted properties in it, I basically just skinned the real world over generic Exalted. So where there needs to be fair folk, there's fair folk. Where there needs to be the wild is there. Sorcery, demons, spirits, whatever Exalted generic we need to playtest, it's here for us to fuck around with. To that end, let's talk briefly about the characters we have. Go in order of the battle sheet. Tell us about your character. Maybe describe them physically, because I'm pretty sure I told the listeners in the first episode we already did that.
I'm, again, Gerald, playing Salah al-Rashid. He's a tall, 20-something Arabic African-American male who dresses in protest gear, and he has a face that is clawed up. He's what else to talk about?
What kind of exalt was he again? Remind us.
Oh yeah, he was a Caste. He's a Caste Solar. He exalted in the middle of a protest where I said werewolves, but I guess any kind of lycanthrope
monsters.
Attacked, and that's how he got his scars. And he defended a whole bunch of people.
Perfect. Now, when you built your character to be a Solar Exalt, okay, first you said his face is scarred up, and I immediately thought of the ghost of the friend from American Werewolf in London. I'm assuming he just has wicked cool scars and not his face is a roadmap of pain scars, right?
No. If you watched the 90s Gargoyles cartoon, there was a character called the Hunter.
Sorry, that's a really good reference.
So that's what I was going for.
That's sick. That's sick as shit.
That was a good show.
Yeah, it was. It was like a TNG reunion. And they all got weird about Shakespeare and Macbeth. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm. So I built the character. Again, as we were stress testing the combat system, I wanted to stress test defense.
And the defend other action, I believe, right?
Yes, the protect action.
Mm-hmm.
So starting off, he was able to protect at maximum 3 people at any single time.
Good Christ. Yeah, listeners, everyone here played a Celestial Exalt of some kind, and we just basically pushed as hard as we could into the combat engine to see what would the optimal case scenarios look like, what would be like the most egregious outliers be, that kind of stuff, because it would end up reflecting backwards into the more moderate examples too. Like, you're going to hear a lot of people say, oh, hey, we have a lot of combat exalts in this game. I think we had 7 players at one point, but all that does is multiply the results we'd get and like kind of give us more information on what this is going to look like in a shorter amount of time than like a whole campaign. But yeah, that defend other action is rough.
Yeah, especially when you have a block of like 6, and that adds to everyone else's defense.
Good God. How many health levels of damage do you think you took across the whole season?
2.
There it is. There it is. There it is. Perfect. So, don't want to talk about the future yet. We'll do that in the outro. Going into this, what did you imagine your character would run into as far as like circumstances or opportunities to like showcase what they could do?
I was like looking into trying to do more coordinated things, and we were trying to, because again, my character is built to coordinate.
Yeah. So if you were to like wish list scenarios that you would be enabled as you were going in, you were thinking that there'd be a lot of like teamwork, being able to like kind of trigger things off each other, I'm guessing, or set stuff up and have payoffs.
Exactly. I was looking to like hold back the enemy lines while our Twilight Sorcerer was going to cast the big fireball type thing.
The big one.
Yes.
Once he got total annihilation or something.
Right. So yeah, a lot of like, I guess the youths today would call that CNC, or like battlefield control or something, where you're locking down opponents and just making sure you dictate the terms of how opponents are acting on the battlefield type deal.
Exactly.
That'd be hard CC.
Yeah.
Proud.
All right.
Yeah.
The reason I'm going to ask what you were looking for going in for the rest of y'all is because that lets us set up a wish list kind of virtually outside of what the results were, and that might help kind of guide things on revisions.
Yeah. That's what I was looking forward to, or looking to do with my character.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I saw a lot of that too. Like you had a fairly strong presence going on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I couldn't hit for shit.
We'll address that in a revision.
Yeah.
So your darkness.
Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Mine's masochism.
Right. So anything else about your character you want to get across to the listeners?
Other than the whole fuck capitalism thing that he was going for.
I think that came through pretty well.
Yes.
All right. Well, in that case, then, if you're comfortable with that, who wants to go? Who's next in the roster? What's it, Steph? And is she AFK now?
Well, if she's not here, I can go next. Since
All right, you can go then.
All right. So I am, as mentioned, Falco, and I was playing Noah, the Twilight Solar. So the whole thing with Noah. Let me start the same place he did. Noah, the best way to describe his appearance is before he exalted. To date myself, he looked like Daniel Jackson in Stargate Season 1. And after
we just rewatched all of Stargate SG-1.
And after he exalted, he looked like Daniel in the later seasons, where he actually like clearly worked out and doesn't need his glasses anymore.
Where he was clearly being a carbon copy of Jack O'Neill, a younger Jack O'Neill.
Right. And so the whole idea with him is pre-exaltation, he was kind of like the occult conspiracy theorist who doesn't actually know anything. And he exalted, he was homeless mostly. He spent a lot of time at the Enigmarium, I believe is the like hostel place, right? And he exalted when he finally found something in occult matrix. He didn't really know what it was. He just decided to go in there and tap in without knowing what he was doing, and it worked in that he broke his brain a fair bit and absorbed a bit of reality in the form of the sorceress initiation, and that actually happened right before he exalted, because whatever was guarding there was also a monster that tried to kill him, because that's just how solars happen in this game. And so he killed the creature with his Flight of the Brilliant Raptor, which was his control spell, and that leads us into the build that he had, which was largely a sorcerer that can survive, is what it came down to. Like, I took the sorcery charms, I took the make sorcery better, I took the normal Twilight stuff, and then I also threw in with, okay, let's get some dodge going here, let's get a last ditch block if we need it, all that kind of stuff.
You had panic buttons.
Right. The basic idea is I don't want to completely be a problem, a liability for everyone else. And then, survive long enough to make a spell in, 2 to 3 turns and blow up a bunch of stuff. Which, yeah, as you'll see, that's what I did. Other thing of note about him is he had followers 5, which were basically these little gremlin creatures, which he realized were everywhere in the city. He just didn't notice it until he had broken through a layer of reality. And they ranged from helpful to literally, well, I won't spoil anything. They ranged in how helpful they would be at a given moment.
You had little Jim Henson gremlins.
Right.
David Bowie's Labyrinth-style gremlins.
And then let's see. What I was looking for was basically to see how viable it is to go all in on sorcery in combat, and to be good at that, and then of course also be able to do typical Twilight stuff out of combat, which I believe we got into a bit, but again, no spoilers yet. I think that covers all the basics you wanted.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So going in, what were you kind of expecting being a sorcerer? Like, what did you kind of thought you were going to see? How did you think you were going to contribute? What did you think you were going to accomplish?
My expectation was essentially that I would be sitting there a lot while I built up my spells and things like that. And I expected that even for a combat playtest, a lot of my contribution would be like right before and after getting into the combat, pressing the button that says, okay, we can go into the combat because I led us there, which I think was the case.
Yeah, that came through a lot. I guess, what would you think you'd want to be seen from sorcery, or like a sorcerer as an option? Like Twilight can be a doctor or an investigator or whatever, but people take it for sorcery, specifically sorcery and crafting and summoning and spells and stuff, right? So what were you kind of expecting that would be unique from what you were picking? Like, what would your gameplay experience feel like that would be like really enticing as a sorcerer?
Like for going hard into sorcery instead of other Twilight stuff?
Yeah.
I guess the expectation is that you get a wider array of talents, but you got to build them up and they're flashy and obvious, and you don't get to be subtle and indirect about it. You got to just, everything is a nail and you only have hammers, but you have a lot of different hammers.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're all hammers, always.
Well, perfect. All right. If you have anything, unless you have anything else, we could move to the next person.
I think I'm good.
Steph, you said you're back. We're going to introduce your character.
I am back.
So,
my character was Zero, a day caste Abyssal, and she was basically built as a stealth archer. She was a rich girl that turned into a supernatural horror after a horseback riding accident. And I really enjoyed playing a combat character because I usually play non-combat character, and I don't think I've ever used an excellency outside of combat in my life, ever in any form of Exalted ever. Sorry about the train.
Yeah.
So it was fun being able to roll 20 dice on a regular basis.
Yeah, stealth archer, classic Skyrim style.
Exactly.
Perfect. So going in expectation-wise, I know we didn't get a lot of chances for you to kind of jump on in just because of time sync-ups, but from what you saw of your character, what were you kind of expecting from the type of like stealth character you were playing? What would have been exciting or interesting for you to kind of encounter?
I didn't get much of a chance to use much stealth. I was mostly using archery rather than stealth.
Yeah.
But so it would be fun to be in situations where I could have used more of that toolkit that I had, but that's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. We had a bit of that in the first session, but like it wasn't the type of game we were queuing up, right? But it definitely would have been critical if you ever could, just because stealth is a nightmare in this system. Don't get caught unawares. Plus, stealth is sort of like a point-and-click adventure game verb. You use stealth, so later you can use bow on man.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's sort of the setup prefix. We didn't get a chance to dive too deep into the Abyssal limit system, unfortunately, but we'll probably try to do that if we ever come back around to this. So can't really comment on that. I don't know. Anything else that stands out about the character that was interesting or fun? Appearance? Did we do appearance?
No, we didn't really do appearance, but appearance didn't come into play much.
Oh yeah, that's because I lied to the listeners and told them in the first session we already told them what the characters looked like right here in this conversation.
Oh.
So what does your character look like?
Late teens. Rich girl turned goth.
Perfect. No notes.
Basically.
Alrighty. Anything else?
Nope, that's about it for me.
Fair enough. Who is next?
Me, I think. Arbane here.
You're up.
Okay, my character was Captain Craig Donovan. He was a boat captain who found something weird out in the ocean and ended up exalting as a Zenith. We never really got into his background because it didn't come up much. In terms of what he was actually doing, he mainly did melee, and he was supposed to be a soak monster, but I don't think he ever got hit that hard, except maybe the once.
Yeah, I meant to ask, how many times, how much damage did you take across this whole season?
Not a lot. I think it was fully recovered. I remember complaining that we weren't getting the chance to check out the wound recovery rules because I thought they were a little too harsh when someone actually does get hit hard. But maybe next time.
There's always next time.
Uh-huh. Let me think. Would have liked to have a chance to do more just plain goofing around role-playing, but I understand we're all on the clock and trying to get through this in a timely fashion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because my character is a Zenith, and social stuff is kind of their thing. That being real tough.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that's definitely something we'd want to kind of take a look at as well if we ever came back, just to dive into that a bit more. Did you give an appearance yet? Because I'm not going to lie, I know you probably did have an appearance, but in my mind, I was picturing the mascot from the Fish Sticks.
Yeah, I thought it up. I don't know if it ever actually got described. Let's see. He's a tall, burly, middle-aged man who could be charitably described as rugged. Usually wearing a captain's hat and a Hawaiian shirt and shorts because we're in Florida. Very sunburned complexion, unsurprisingly.
All right, I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you didn't, I'd be like, oh yeah, blue hat, blue coat, white beard, pipe.
He might have a pipe. He has enough other bad habits.
I mean, is it a bad habit when it can't affect you ever?
Uh-huh. Let me think. Anything else? Things I'd like to do.
Yeah, Zenith. So that meant, I believe Zenith has a lot of implications of like leading the troops, like inspiration style, never taking it on the chin constantly. God interaction too, like spirits and gods. We didn't get a chance to dig into that too deeply, but it was on the docket to come up if we ever got to the point where, you'd be fighting gods and elementals and spirits.
Yeah. I mostly left the spiritual stuff to our Twilight.
Yeah. Yeah. And anything that deals with like the undead, you have kind of an inbuilt go fuck yourself for, I believe.
Yup.
Yeah. All right. You didn't take that much damage. I couldn't really touch you, which was part of the feedback we're given for the play test. But what kind of interesting things, like in the dynamic of combat, were you kind of hoping or expecting going in? What kind of hooks were you going for? Like when we talked about the Dawn Caste, we were talking about like doing setups for defense or being able to play off teamwork and stuff. Did you have anything like that for the Zenith? You were imagining any kind of like special identities for the fights?
Blocking for the rest of the team, but it looks like the Dawn had that thoroughly covered.
I mean, can you ever have too much blocking for the team?
True. And the others certainly are doing damage pretty well sewn up.
Yeah, you guys were cutting through people like a hot knife.
Mm-hmm. As we should. People and people adjacent.
Yeah. That was pretty solid work there.
Mm-hmm.
All right then. Well, if you don't have anything else, we could definitely move. But do you have any other kind of comments on the character?
Not really. Hope to get to do more exploring if we continue with this.
Absolutely. I would want to see more seafaring based stuff, like get your boat in play.
Okay.
That'd be fun. Because you kind of spec'd out for that, right? Well, not entirely, but like you could even take that one charm that makes you a god on the ocean. Right. All right, then. Who is up next? Is that Panda at this point? I think you're the only one left.
Right. My guy's Neil Bhediya, Dawn Caste, tall Indian American, kind of dark complexion, as you'd expect, with the requisite knee-jerk fear of cops as a result.
When you talk about fear of cops, like the first thing that comes to mind is the cop enemies from Persona 4, which are like big giant hippo people with like death masks and holes in their heart with like a jail key in them. Like, oh yeah, cops can be rough.
I mean, hey, when that one kid pulled the siren and immediately sirens started going off, he was the first one running.
Yeah. So you built Dawn Caste. What'd you spec for?
I initially tried to go for tried to go for a more balanced thing because I thought it would be better to not leave like gaping holes. But now I've kind of spec'd hard into defense.
Yeah, that seems to be a recurring
dodge.
thing. Just not ever getting hit.
Yeah, instead of sword and board, it's more like board and fist. Currently a trash can, but figure might as well upgrade to some like carbon fiber expanding shield later.
Or an artifact shield, which is what I had in mind for season 2.
Artifact expanding shield, then.
Or a chalcum.
A what?
Or a chalcum.
There would have been a fight for that, I think.
That's what I was going to throw in, though, like artifact gear once we moved into the next phase of troubleshooting.
Yeah, I kind of figured that we'd be going down to Hollow Earth and fighting stuff for the stuff we need for the artifact. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had a whole thing figured out for that. It was going to be like a whole Dark Souls boss battle fight. Not worth it at this stage.
Understandably so.
But no, they had like gear and stuff embedded in their hides. It would have been a whole treasure trove of murder.
Damn. But yeah, aside from that, like as far as what I focus on mechanically, as far as charms went, I kind of went pretty hard on damage with some defensive boosting. Mm-hmm. Not seven shadows. Flow like blood. There we go. Flow
a lot of you had
a bit of maneuverability, and then a lot of damage.
Yeah, you all had really good passive defense going on, and then the active defense was a horror show. And as long as you have that going, any amount of damage is pretty brutal to throw at an NPC. But yeah, high spikes, Dawn Caste style damage is a nightmare. There's nothing you can do against that.
It's hilarious.
You were nuking like 2.5 people per turn almost each attack.
Yeah, we did not expect what happened to that gargoyle and that Sabbat priest.
Oh, that was rough stuff. All right. but that's pretty good. So for the kind of combat character you're building, what kind of scenarios or situations or use of your charms were you kind of expecting to get going on in? What kind of like events or setups were you wanting?
Well, honestly, I was kind of looking forward to some like carving a path through the armies of darkness kind of deal.
Yeah,
but like I kind of figured that would come significantly later, like once we were properly kitted out as the God Kings of today.
No, for sure. So being able to kind of wade into a large kind of mix up and like, determine, hey, I'm going to single that guy out and pull them into the fight type thing.
Yeah. Something like that.
No, that makes sense. Like if you can just walk into a big swirly melee, not get touched, pull out a captain or something and just kill them, that's kind of a super fun way to play.
Yeah. That or getting to do like draw a line in the sand at a breach in a wall and say anyone crosses this line dies.
Yeah, good cinematic stuff.
Yeah.
No, I can see that for sure. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else, is that all? That's
everything I can think of. Sorry.
All right. No, that's no problem. That's all good. It's all perfect. So that was the cast of characters. We're missing Adam and Nicole, of course. So Adam was playing another Abyssal, and I don't remember if they were a Dawn cast or another Night cast or the Zenith cast. I don't remember.
They were a Dusk cast.
Okay, yeah, they were the Dawn cast for Abyssals. I'm not dignifying the cast names with their own special names. They had the Sunburst. So I know Adam was devastating in combat, as you all were. It's hard to differentiate who wasn't devastating in combat, really.
He drank the Bot Priest.
Yeah, he did the vampire stuff. He did the unarmed combat stuff.
He didn't do the vampire thing. He did the fucking moopsy thing and drank his fucking bones.
Yeah, he Capri Sunned a lot of people, or he would have if he was allowed to.
Yeah. He also had the defense of the presence,
Oh, the willpower trick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'd call that the Widowmaker if any of those antagonists were married.
Mm-hmm.
What was it called? Glorious Radiant Presence? No, Majestic Radiant Presence. There we go.
Yeah,
well, okay, that's the solar version. The Abyssal version is probably something really edgy.
Yeah, it's going to be like Withering Phantasmagoria Tombstone Fucker or something. It was a great charm, okay? It makes you have to do willpower stuff, and you never want NPCs doing willpower stuff to have to fight. Every one turn an NPC loses is like 5 turns you guys gain, basically. Like, because you guys all get to go before they go again.
I mean, debatable if it's 5 whole turns, given that we kind of tend to nuke them in one.
Exactly. So, if they lost a turn, that would probably be the only turn they would have ever had a chance to lose. Just devastating shit. Mm-hmm. And Nicole built the only lunar. She didn't get a lot of I think she got one session to play, but she built a lunar with a what do they call them? A ox dragon, a triceratops as her
Triceratops full moon with more health levels than God.
Yeah. Had she actually gotten into a fight that challenged y'all, she would have definitely taken a lot more damage than you theoretically could have. But it didn't come to that. She also took like dragon martial arts and stuff. None of it got to be tested out live.
Yeah.
Damn.
But if it could have, it would have been very impressive. Other than that, that's about the character lineup. For Helios is a weird occult city I wrote up. It has a bunch of different districts with unique things going on. I'm not really going to get into it. There's probably going to be a document I'll have Peter remind me to have him link that you can read, so I don't have to describe the city at all. I'll probably have the pitch document posted with this, which completely obviates my need to do any more work. Game idea I had was basically throw a escalating amount of supernatural threats at you to see what happens before we hit the Exalt tier. So I started with mortals. I scaled it up to like mortal plus, where it's like, the vampire stat blocks we had were just like, they had been the Exalted equivalent of like soldiers with access to some like sub artifact magic, supernaturally like charmed or blessed things or secret exotic techniques. And you guys just ripped through all of it. Spoilers, listeners. They did a bunch of solars, abyssals, and a lunar. 7 of them all together, I think, really, really ripped their way through anything less than an Exalt when they all worked together.
Yeah.
I don't know what you were expecting, listener, but that's how that went down. And we detailed it pretty thoroughly. So, yeah, the game setup was supposed to be escalating challenges. I think we got that. You'll be seeing that. And we stopped just short of introducing the Exalted tier threats because with what we found in the game going forward, we didn't really justify investing that amount of time before a rebalance happens where we can actually challenge the players, because the players are so the base numbers are so tuned, we found, in such a way that there really isn't a challenge for PCs. So that's being adjusted, and when it is, we'll see how it kind of goes, and maybe you'll get a little more climactic, nitty-gritty neck-and-neck fights where there are stakes and things on the line.
Basically the whole thing where it's supposed to be fast-paced, people fight fast and die fast. Yeah, only the other guys are dying.
I mean, it was fast. They died fast. We achieved. There were many missions accomplished.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, as far as an intro goes, this is a very rough cut playtest of the Exalted Demake, which has been coming along for a year or two now and is really far along at this point. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I think most of the Exalt types are being sort of built out. We're playtesting the core stuff. We have an entire game for Dragonblooded that we're picking back up once we get this version of the playtest and the rules updated. This was supposed to be primarily the Celestials, so Solar, Lunar, Abyssal, though those core 3 are being tested here. And, the other ones like Sidereals and whoever else will come later. Oh, yeah, Infernals aren't here just because they're not done yet, but I'm just going to assume Infernals are going to work as optimally as Solars and Abyssals are. I'm just going to put that assumption out there into the world that it's going to be a bloodbath.
Probably.
Yeah, but Sidereals and I don't know, what the fuck else is there? Alchemicals, Exigents, Scatimians, Revelers, or Heart Eaters.
Heart Eaters, yeah.
All those fuckers will be coming up.
We got the Nightmares?
Oh, yeah. All of them are being made. It's just they're not around yet.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But in a future thing, they'll be tested out probably. But for now, we just did kind of the core heavy hitters. I know Holden likes Sidereals, but I just don't give a fuck. He can run a Yushan game.
Run a Yushan game, or you can do the Sailor Scouts.
Yeah, exactly. Or we'll get Peter to do it.
Aren't you the one looking to run a technocracy game? Well, not techno, not like Mage 20 technocracy, more
a weird fucking wizard game that's part Control, part Twin Peaks, and part whatever to the good parts of the technocracy. That's in the future. It's not quite Sidereal, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure we could blackmail Peter into running a Yushan game. Peter likes Yushan. He likes Sidereals. Him and Holden would do well together doing that, where I don't have to.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting spy game.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't want to do it. I like the idea of Sidereals. The writing I've read for them in the Demake is really interesting. This is just turning into a bash section on Sidereals now. It's really cool, but I just don't fundamentally have an interest in Yushan as a place for me to do stuff in. If I'm going to do Exalted and it's going to be creation, I want to be in creation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool. Yeah, we just rewatched The Vision of Escaflowne, and the most interesting parts were the parts that weren't dealing with Isaac Newton talking about fate. Sorry, Sidereals. Yeah, all right. That's a great message to end the intro on. So here you go, listeners. A bunch of episodes of Solars and Abyssals, just absolutely fucking over the world of darkness. Just really giving it to them. Just really going for it. It's going to be great.
Just a Sabat so far, but
you could extrapolate this. I can assure you, listeners, that the Camarilla would not have had a more decisive advantage than the Sabat in the scenarios you're about to hear.
Oh no, definitely not. I'm just saying we didn't touch werewolves or mages yet.
Not yet, but soon. Perhaps season 2. So be good, for goodness sake. And we're going to outro here with I was Devon.
I'm Gerald.
I'm Stephanie.
Falco.
Arbane.
And Panda.
Damn, guys, that was a good outro. You all got it. You all hit your marks. And this is sponsored by Nobody. Signing off.